in this fourth module of the CBC online training. Your presenters this evening, Mr. Christian Wilmore and Ms. Gillian Martindale, and they'll be covering the topic of flopping and technical fouls. And without any further ado, I will hand the floor over to them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yearwood. Good evening, everyone. Once again, it's a pleasure to be with you. As Mr. Yearwood mentioned, my name is Christian Wilmore. I am working along with Ms. Gillian Martindale. This evening, we will be discussing the issue of technical foul and flopping. I will bring to bear my experience as a FIBA international referee for the past 8 years, inclusive of 3 world championships and many high-level competitions. Ms. Martindale will bring to bear her experience as a former FIBA referee and currently as the national referee instructor for Barbados. We are so happy to have all of you here. Thank you so much for being with us. Without any further ado, we would like to get right into this evening's presentation. Okay, as was mentioned before, this evening's presentation is on technical foul and flopping. We're going to start off with technical foul because flopping is a part of the technical foul rule. And so with that being said, we'll get right into it. So our hope and prayer is that at the end of this presentation, you will be able to, 1, explain the role of the technical foul in the game of basketball, define briefly what is a technical foul, that you would be able to identify situations, game situations, which warrant a technical foul, that you would be able to explain the role of the official warning in the modern game, and finally, that you would have a grasp of how technical foul penalties should be administered, particularly when there are additional foul penalties combined with said technical foul penalties. At its very core, if we had to sum up the job of a basketball official or any sports official for that matter, we can say that their job is to ensure fair play while protecting the spirit and integrity of the game. What is the image that FIBA looks for when it uses the term an elite basketball referee? This is taken directly from our referee instructors program. It says FIBA has one golden rule when it comes to prioritizing for referee training for FIBA games. That rule is game control. What is game control? Game control is ensuring a smooth running and dynamic game where players are able to showcase their skills. This is the image FIBA is looking for. The 2 or 3 appointed referees are the ones who are responsible for this game control. Every official has at their disposal multiple keys or tools that they can use to ensure game control. Tonight, we will focus on one such tool, that is the technical foul. At this time, I would like to permit Ms. Martindale to speak and take over the presentation.
Okay, so the next presentation is on technical foul. We ensure you a very educational session, and we hope that at the end of the session, then you can take away the importance of managing the game using technical fouls when necessary. Technical fouls 36.1, Article 36 36.1, rules of conduct. 36.1.1. The proper conduct of the game demands the full and loyal cooperation of the players, head coaches, assistant coaches, substitutes, excluded players, and accompanying delegation members with the referees, table officials, and commissioners if present. So in a nutshell, what I was trying to say is that everyone who's involved in the game, whether your name is on the score sheet or not, as long as you're considered to be a part of the game, that all the game requires from you is full cooperation, respecting the game, okay? And this goes for players, head coaches, substitutes, excluded players. As long as you are considered to be a part of the game, that is what is expected from you. Each team shall do its best to secure victory, but this must be done in the spirit of sportsmanship and fair play. And that's all that FIBA and basketball is asking for. Enjoyable game. You, the teams, decide who wins, who lose, and the game of basketball is being protected. Any deliberate or repeated non-cooperation or non-compliance with the spirit and the intent of this rule shall be considered as a technical foul. The referees may prevent technical fouls by giving warnings or even overlooking minor infractions which are obviously unintentional and have no direct effect upon the game unless there is repetition of the same infraction after the warning. Okay, so I think this section of the rule in regards to technical fouls is the responsibility of the referees. And what they're asking is, okay, so something happens in the game that doesn't really comply with what is going on in the game. And before we rush to give a technical foul, they're advising warnings, right? If it is minor infractions, because one of our sole responsibilities as referees is to call what is obvious. Minor things you can overlook, you can have a quiet word, but as referees, you are always advised to give warnings first in regards to if you're considering giving a technical foul. So the first thing they're asking us to do is think about it, think about warning. If an infraction is recognized after the ball becomes live, the game shall be stopped and a technical foul charged. The penalty shall be administered as if the technical foul had occurred at the time it is charged. Whatever occurs during the interval between the infractions and the games being stopped shall remain valid. Okay, so the second paragraph. Okay, so there's the interval of play, and during the interval of play, there's a technical foul. The moment the teams are beckoned onto the court, the first thing to be administered is the shots for the technical foul. Nothing else happens before the administration of the technical foul. If there's a foul during the game and the game is stopped and then immediately there's a technical foul, later on in the rules we will go ahead and we will explain what happens first. Technical fouls must be administered first. It doesn't matter what time they happen, technical fouls must be administered first. And I hope that is pretty clear. Okay, any questions? An official warning is given to a player for an action or behavior which, if repeated, may lead to a technical foul. Okay, so something happens that doesn't comply within the spirit of basketball, and the elite referees, smart referees, and we're asking you as all referees, give a warning first. So this is your first opportunity to become proactive, right? Stamp your authority. Okay, this does not belong to the game. We're going to cut it out. The next time it occurs, it may lead to a technical foul. That warning shall also be communicated to the head coach of that team and shall apply to any member of that team for any similar action for the remainder of the game. Good. So you're letting everyone know, okay, the coach is responsible for his team. Okay, so it is advised that when you're given a warning, you speak to the player and to the coach, and you let him know that if any similar action occur by him or any member of his team, a technical foul may be issued. Okay. Um, and official warning shall be given only when the ball becomes dead and the game clock is stopped. Okay, so something happens in the game, the players are still playing. At the moment there's a dead ball opportunity or any moment that there's a stoppage in the game, that is when you communicate. You can communicate with the players on the court while the game is in motion, while the game is going, but the moment there's a dead ball opportunity or a stoppage in the game, that's when you go over to the coach and you allow him to know what transpired and what would be the end result if it continues. Psychology of officiating, technical foul. What is the role of the basketball referee?
Okay. Thank you very much, Jillian. So here is where we start very early on with your participation. Can someone or some people tell me what is the role of the basketball referee? You may text it into the chat, or if you want, you may speak. Please, let's try and participate quickly so that we can get through the entire presentation in good time. What is the role of the basketball referee? This is not a trick question. We have lots of referees in the session this evening, and so surely you must know what your job is on the court. What is the job of the basketball referee? Anyone, please.
Good evening. Are you talking about generally or in a specific situation?
More generally, how would you define the job of the basketball referee?
Okay, well, I think by the way, Vanessa said, Michelle, I think the role of the referee is more or less to facilitate and manage the game. To my mind, that you are there to, yes, you are part of the game, but your main goal, your main job would be to facilitate the smooth running of the game and to manage the different situations which may occur in the game in the best way possible and in the quickest way possible to allow for that smooth flow.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. So Ms. Williams said to manage the game, to facilitate the smooth running of the game. Kiran said in the chat to ensure the game is played within the established rules. Mr. Lewis said to apply the rules of the game. And you know, all of you are right, but I want to challenge us as referees. I want us to think of it just slightly different. So yes, you're all right. Our job is to enforce rules. Our job is to make sure that the game runs smoothly. Our job is to make sure the game is played within the rules. But I want us to take a slightly different approach to doing these things. So the first thing I'm going to put up here, it says, and this is directly from FIBA, it says, be in charge with service attitude. Help the game. Attitude is everything. And this goes towards what Ms. Williams said. Our job is to facilitate the smooth running of the game. Our job is not to kind of rule with an iron fist the game of basketball. So if I had to define the role of the basketball referee, or if you ask FIBA what they thought the role of the basketball referee is, they would say the role of the basketball referee is to be a service provider. And you might say, why would we take this approach to the game? Because the truth of the matter is, I like to use the analogy of the police officer. I am sure everyone here has interacted with a police officer at some point in their life. Whether that means you were in trouble or not, you have had some interaction with a law enforcement officer in your lifetime. And I would guess that many of you have ran into an officer who has the approach, my job is to just apply the law. They have no context, they have no empathy, they have no deeper understanding. They see their job as black and white. Here's the laws and I'm enforcing it. I don't care what you have to say. I don't care what is going on. I don't care what the situations are. And I think we would all agree that while we can say, yes, he is doing his job, that person is probably not the best police officer. Because by doing that, though that approach, that kind of in the box approach, that cookie cutter approach, here is the rules and I apply that in every situation regardless of what is happening in the game. That approach only seeks to, one, irritate the people you are meant to help and serve. And in our case, the service providers, whether you like it or not, we are there to serve the players, the coaches, and the fans. You irritate them. Not only do you irritate them, you break down the trust. Remember the first thing Ms. Martindale said, the smooth running of the game requires cooperation, full and loyal cooperation between coach, player, assistant coach, bench personnel, as well as the referee. So while your job is to enforce the rules, I want you to take an approach. In enforcing the rule, I want you to approach it as I am providing a service to make sure that the game is played fairly and that there's good sportsmanship. I'll give you one analogy. We're all in the Caribbean. Everyone knows that in any country, there are places where it is not recommended that you be late at night. Every country has those places, and we can identify those places regularly. The street or the neighborhood, you would not want to be left outside on the side of the street at 2 a.m. in the morning. And so I remember a few years ago here, they said, even though the law says you must stop at the red light or you must stop at the stop sign, I remember a few years ago, the police officers had a kind of media interaction, and they admonished individuals because of what was happening in these communities. Even though the law says you must stop and wait for the green light, they admonish people, if you are in certain places at certain hours of the day and there is a red light and there's no traffic coming, stop, check the directions, and continue on going. It is better for your safety to not sit on a red light isolated where there are no other cars around and to go, as opposed to follow the letter of the rule and sit there for who knows 5-10 minutes and open up yourself to potentially being accosted or assaulted or a victim of a robbery. And I just give that example to say there is the rules, but there are times when we must be service providers and we must understand what is going on. And so to sum it all up, the one thing you must have in your head is this word. And I didn't put it on the slide. FIBA says the approach must be empathy. Empathy, not sympathy. Empathy. Empathy means understanding what is happening What is the context? What is the situation? The rule might say it's a technical foul, but in this situation, it might not be. I often say this: you can call the right call at the wrong time. And we'll get into that later, but I just wanted to make that point. So the next question: is the technical foul a tool or a weapon? Again to you, is the technical foul a tool or a weapon from the referee's perspective? It's a tool. That's right. So Karen, Lewis, Wells, it's a tool. Mr. Nicholas, thank you very much. It's a tool. So what is the difference between a tool and a weapon? We must know this as referees. What is the difference between a tool and a weapon? Would someone like to chime in? You have someone in the chat, I'm checking. A tool, Ms. Wells, a tool is used to assist or make a task easier. A weapon sounds more defensive or used for attack. That's very good, Ms. Wells. Very good. I'll read the next. We have one more person. Ah, Ms. Kite, I think you saw my presentation ahead of time. And Mr. Walker, is a tool misused for personal, a weapon is a tool misused for personal reason. You guys are right on it. So, you're right, Ms. Kite. Ms. Kite, you are basically right on it. A tool is usually used to build or accomplish a task, whereas a weapon is used to destroy. And what is the technical foul trying to build? So if the technical foul is a tool and the tool is used to build or to make a task easier, what is the goal, therefore, of the technical foul? So you guys got the square on. So now let's connect the dots. What is the goal of the technical foul? More specifically to the game, what are we trying to build? Anyone? What are we trying to build? What task are we trying to make easier? Going once? Okay, we got someone in the chat. Is a tool to conflict resolve, to manage the game, all of these things. Yes, it's trying to build the smooth running of the game, control, teamwork, yes. I'll go right back to what Ms. Martindale said. Yes, Ms. Williams, go ahead.
I think it's also trying to build a level of discipline.
Could you say that word again? I didn't hear the end.
Well,
build a level of...
And so that players would know that there are certain things that are just unacceptable.
Okay, but I didn't catch the beginning part. It's trying to build a what? Could you repeat that?
A level of discipline.
A level of discipline.
Oh, discipline. Oh, sorry, a level of discipline. Okay, build boundaries. Okay.
Making the task managing.
Okay, what if I said a technical foul is used to build relationships? And I'll tell you why I use that word. Because I want us to not approach it, yes, it's build boundaries, but I don't want us to approach the technical foul as a tool to separate the referee from the players, from the coaches. We want to build relationships, but we want to build a clear-cut relationship. In the same way that a parent disciplines their child to build a relationship that I am the parent and you are the child, even though I love you, even though I care for you, I want you to understand your role. In the same way that a teacher uses discipline in their classroom to build a relationship between them and the student, we are building relationships. All of you are right, but I want you to realize the mentality I'm trying to get across. I want you to see the technical foul and the discipline as a tool to create harmony in the game. And the reason why this is important, because then it goes to reason that if you call a technical foul and it does not create harmony, but instead it makes the game worse in terms of atmosphere, in terms of control, if it makes a situation bigger, if the eruption from the technical foul is more severe than the situation itself, then I have a general rule of thumb. It was a bad technical foul. Your technical foul should restore harmony, should restore the position of the referee as the law enforcement officer on the court. It should restore the balance of the game, not break it down. If it breaks it down, if it corrodes, if it makes the situation worse, then your technical foul has effectively functioned as a weapon and not a tool. So moving on from that, the other psychology of officiating. Before we get to the, yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Ian Yearwood here.
Okay.
Now, you spoke about the technical foul being a tool.
Yes.
Could that tool work against you as a referee if you, for example, gave a warning at a stage but did not on the next occasion call the technical foul? So in other words, you have now players and coaches calling your bluff.
Yes, so from my personal experience, definitely that has happened to me. And from time to time, it still happens where you use the other tools in your arsenal, the warnings, etc., the communications. But I will say this to your question, it is a tool that must be used consistently, and you must demonstrate to the participants in the game that you are not afraid or hesitant to use the tool when necessary. Definitely. So it's no benefit for you to say, I have the hammer to put the nail in the wood to build the structure that I want, but never actually hit the nail. And the more the nail stays up, the more you wield the hammer. If you're too afraid to bind the nail because you're afraid you're going to hit your finger, if you're too afraid to use the saw because you're afraid you're going to take your fingers off, or whatever tool you're using, then the tool has no purpose. So definitely you're right. You must be prepared to use the tool to accomplish the task, because if you don't, then bad things can happen. So the next point we have here about psychology of officiating is, before we even get to the technical foul, it says be proactive. Many technical foul situations can be avoided if referees would have an active mindset. You see minor situations, you see them developing, you see the buildup, and you do nothing. You say nothing. You don't show that it's not permitted. You don't communicate that it's not permitted. And then finally, the coach is testing you. How much is he going to let me get away with? How much is she going to let me get away with? The player is testing you. What can I say? How far can I go? How much can I make a demonstration? And you don't say anything, whether it's official warning, whether you just talk to the coach or player personally, you don't do anything. And then all of a sudden, you get to the end of the game, something happens, and there's a big explosion, and then that brings us to the bottom point. You are forced now into a corner where you must call a technical foul because you did not use all of the other choices at your disposal. You did not use communication. Official warning is official. That goes to the coach, that goes to the player. Many times before official warnings, you can speak informally, unofficially to a player. Hey, you're getting a little bit too wordy, huh? Hey, you're getting, I don't like the demonstration. Hey, You're being disrespectful now. I'm just saying this to the player unofficially. This is not an official warning. This is called being proactive. A good player, a smart player will tone down. Then, yes, there are those players who will continue. And then you continue. Then comes the official warning. Then comes the technical foul. The technical foul is the last option outside of the disqualification. It is the last option. So you want to try and use all of the choices available to you. Don't let them put you in a box where you can't do anything else but call a technical foul if you haven't done anything else, because now you haven't been proactive. There are other tools that the rules don't speak about. Humor. Some referees have a good sense of humor. Some of you are comics. You're comedians. You can diffuse a situation with a good joke, with a good remark. You can get a player to chuckle and laugh and just diffuse the situation. These are tools. These are choices. These are things that you can use to diffuse the situation to allow the game to run smoothly. They don't teach this in clinics. They don't teach this in seminars, but you have at your disposal a full set of tools. And so you must try and do all you can to use them so that you are not put in a box where you are ultimately forced to call a technical foul. So as we go through this presentation, I don't want anyone wearing Mr. Technical Foul across their chest. That is the beginner referee. That is the quote unquote junior referee, the elite referee, the senior referee. Knows how to talk to a player and a coach informally, knows how to use the official warning, knows how to use humor, knows how to use all of these little things, and you will never even know why their games run so smoothly because they don't have the big thing. In the timeout, in the free throw, I'm saying things to players on the line. Hey, that last play down the court, that reaction, that was pushing the limits, tone it down. I'm saying these little things, and good players will say, sorry, Mr. Ref. Okay, Mr. Ref, I hear you. These are little things that you do because you're being proactive. And so this is what we want your approach to be. Not come out of this presentation, the rule says this is a technical foul, and when I see it in the game, I call technical foul. That is not the first avenue. The first avenue is to be proactive, use all the tools at your disposal, and then if they are not getting the picture, if they're not getting the message, then you have a recourse, which is to issue the technical foul. And when that time comes, definitely do not be afraid. Do not be hesitant to use it. Okay, let's continue. Ms. Martindale. Ms. Martindale, are you there? Okay, I will continue. So Article 36, technical foul. It says a technical foul is a player not. I apologize for that. I'm back now. I switched to a more secure connection. I will screen share it again, Ms. Martindale. Who is the host now? I'm unable to share my screen. Mr. Yearwood? Mr. Yearwood?
I'll send him a message. I think he's muted.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to make me the host again so I can share my screen. Anyway, Ms. Martindale, can we read through the next slide? Do you have it up? And then I will post it when he comes. We're on slide number 10. A technical foul is a player non-contact foul. That slide. Your mic is muted, by the way.
Share my screen. Host disabled participant. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, Mr. Brown is working on that now, but I think we can read through that slide and the next slide, and by the time they get it up, then I will share it with the rest of the group.
Okay, Article 36, technical foul. 36.2.1. Technical foul is a player non-contact foul of a behavioral nature, including but not limited to. So what they're trying to say is, if there's contact, it is not a technical foul. Although it might say a foul, which in we kind of, when we think about the word foul, we think, okay, there's some level of contact, but for a technical foul, it is specific that it is it is not a contact foul. Rather than that, they say it is a non-contact foul of a behavioral nature. Okay, so and when they talked about behavioral nature, they're talking about, it could be about action, it could be verbally, it could be many things, but not, it could be staring, it could be taunting, but it has nothing to do with contact. And that's what they said is a non-contact foul.
And Miss
Okay.
Martindale, could you elaborate, if it is contact, what might be the possible foul calls that can be made in lieu of a technical foul?
Okay, so if it is contact, then it depends on who initiate the contact. Sometimes, okay, in basketball, there's contact. There's negligible contact, there's fair contact. But when we're judging, and now in this situation, because sometimes you can have contact, okay, and as we go into flopping and faking, you will see that there's some situations where there's slight contact, but the contact that occurred is negligible or fair. Okay, so when we're talking about technical fouls, we're not talking about the hard, strong fouls. We're talking about non-contact fouls, like not things that are actually deliberate.
Okay, Ms. Martindale, we have the presentation back up, so I'll move to the next slide. So you can read it again from here, and then we'll go into the next slide.
A technical foul is a player non-contact foul of a behavioral nature, included but not limited to disrespectfully dealing and or communicating with the referees, the commissioners, the table officials, the opponents, or person permitted to sit on the team bench. A technical foul by any person permitted to sit on the team bench is a foul for disrespectfully communicating with or touching the referee, the commissioner, the table officials, or the opponents, or an infraction of a procedural or an administrative nature.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to watch some clips. I will post the links in the chat for your benefit, but I will also be playing the videos on my screen, whichever works best for you. So at this time, in the chat, everyone, you will find the link for the first clip, and I will play it now. Oh, shoot. Wait. Share screen. Optimize. Okay, the second link I'm sending to you now. And the third link is coming now. So I will just say very quickly about those three clips. In the first one, it was very obvious. The coach reached out and grabbed the referee as he was running by disrespectfully because he thought there should have been a foul call on the drive to the basket. And so anytime a coach or any other player touches an official disrespectfully, that is an automatic technical foul. In the second play, you would have seen where there was a reaction by the bench personnel of the team where four team delegates, I don't know if they were all assistant coaches, but four members of the team bench personnel stood up to dispute the call in addition to the head coach. And so the referee correctly assessed a technical foul for disrespectful communication by team bench personnel. And then in the final play, we have an interesting situation. I'll just say something quickly about it. There was a violation because the player in red reached across the out of bounds line and touched the ball while it was still in the hands of the thrower in. That's a violation. The referee blew the whistle to redo the throw in. She asked for the ball. He pulled the ball away from her, continued to debate with her verbally, and then finally kind of just flung the ball at her in a very disrespectful manner and continued on with whatever it was that he was saying. I will just draw your attention to one thing. Notice that the referee in that situation did not make the problem worse by aggressively approaching the player, by going after him. She did not approach him. She took her hands off of the ball. She let him have the ball. And notice also that immediately after she called the technical foul, even though she had to communicate it to the table, she went immediately away from the situation to the opposite side of the court because she was in a red zone because that player's team bench was right there. So she called the technical foul and she immediately moved to the other side of the court to not make the situation worse. Remember what we said, a technical foul should build, not destroy. And in that instance, she built by you, like you guys said, showing the boundaries, but she did not make the situation worse by being overly aggressive, by being overly confrontational, or by staying in the situation. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Question. Oh, question. When he reached over and hit the ball out of the player, when the player had it in his hand, is that considered a technical foul doing that?
Not automatically in that situation. It could be definitely in the last 2 minutes of the game. We're going to get to that. If you wait just a little bit, we will get to that specific play, but not automatically necessarily. It depends on the situation and the time of the game, but it can be a technical foul.
Okay, my question was in respect of the first video where the coach reached out to pull the referee while the game was going. Could that be out of frustration of the coach if earlier in the game he was trying to have a conversation with the referee, and as a referee we just keep ignoring the coaches? Could that have developed out of that?
Definitely, it's possible. You can have a situation where prior actions can lead. Maybe there were other situations in which he tried to communicate with the officials and felt as though he was not being entertained or heard. And so in this particular situation, he took a more drastic step to get the referee's attention, definitely. And this is where it comes back to when we talked about the psychology of officiating and this service mindset. You know, I know we're supposed to go quick, but this is important, so I don't mind spending some time on this. We are on the court to provide a service as referees. And if that is not your mindset, then being a referee is not for you. It is not something that you need to be doing. God bless you. We thank you, but it is not for you. That is just the rule. We always say, don't we say it about the police officers? You are here to serve the public. You are here to protect us, to be of service to us. This is what we ask of law enforcement officials. Even though their job is to enforce the law, we expect them to be public servants first. Referees are no different. We are not above the law. We are not beyond the law. We are there to serve players and coaches and team bench personnel. That doesn't mean that every time they want to speak to you, you have to speak to them. But if there's a tricky situation, if there's something funny that happened in the game and there's some legitimate confusion, the service provider in you should go and give a brief explanation at an acceptable time when the clock is stopped and the ball is dead, and move on. Yes, that is definitely the case, but there are times when that shouldn't happen as well. But with experience, you will learn when and when not to engage these stuff. But the key is, if you approach the game, I am providing a service. How can I serve the game so that this game runs smoothly? Not I am the ref, and what I say is it. And if I don't want to talk to you, I'm not talking to you. And I don't want to talk to me tonight because I had a bad day at work. This is not the profession for you. Okay? If I may just ask, because we do have a second half of this presentation, if you may now hold your questions until the end of the technical foul presentation. If you want to make notes, we would be greatly appreciative because we still have a decent amount to get through. Thank you very much. Okay, Miss Martindale, the next slide. Ms. Martindale, are you there? Okay, so a technical, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so using language or gestures likely to offend or incite the spectators. Remember in the introduction, we talked about the whole like respecting each other in regards to fair play on the court. Okay? Again, you would find the players reacting. Not only the coaches react, the players react as well. And we have to be big enough and bold enough that when we make a correct decision and there's a reaction after that correct decision, then we are within our rights to take action. If we make a decision and it's not 100% correct decision, then something that usually follows by a reaction. But if there's a reaction that incites the spectators, actually like brings tension into the game, because at the end of the day, we are the one who have to protect the game. Okay, we have a responsibility, the coaches have a responsibility, the players have a responsibility as well. Their responsibility is to play, the coach's responsibility is to coach, our responsibility as referees and officials are to protect the game. So if there's any excessive gestures like choking, what would make a player decide to hold his throat? That means, okay, it could send a message that the referee's decision is garbage or nonsense. What could make him raise his hands in the air to the spectators? That's trying to get the spectators involved, get them on his side to disagree with the referees. And sometimes the psychological part of that get is to get the referee out of the frame of mind to actually give them calls, give them what they don't deserve, or to sometimes they can influence us as referees in our judgment, right? And that's why it's important to be tough, to have an attitude, okay, a professional attitude, that when the pressure arises, and when you go to big competitions, there are tournaments where there are thousands of spectators. Everyone is not going to agree on what you say, but at the end of the day, you have to manage it, you have to protect the game. Any language that is coming towards you, whether it be verbally, whether it be staring at you, then those are the things that you need to manage, right? With a warning first, and we're going to stress a warning, and then that's when you can administer the technical foul because you're within your rights.
Okay, so let's take a look at this video. I'm sending the link once again in the chat, and watch the reaction of the player. I will also play it on my screen as well. So I think in that play, everyone can agree that that reaction was meant to, first of all, it was disrespectful communication with the officials, but also those type of reactions will incite spectators because it gives them the feeling that their player was cheated. And in this particular situation, the call was absolutely 100% correct as an offensive foul. And so there's no need for that level of reaction to make the spectators believe as though in some way they have been so blatantly cheated or robbed of a decision. And so immediately with something so obvious as that, where the call was correct and the reaction was so large, immediately a technical foul was assessed. Let's move on, Ms. Martindale, to the next slide, please. Ms. Martindale.
Baiting and taunting and opponent. Okay. So as we said, the game allows you to play within the spirit of fair play. Baiting and taunting can lead to roughness, it can lead to fight, and it can also bring the game into disrepute. Okay, sometimes these situations occur at the free throw line. It occurs at throw-ins. It occurs after mid-basket, where there's a spectacular player, where you have players in each other's space, as we said, chesting up or beefing up. And what that does is that it can make the game difficult for you to officiate if you do not take control of it from the beginning. So we're not allowing the players, okay, we're going to allow them to play. And obviously in playing, they're going to have a reaction, but that reaction has to be controlled.
Okay, so I'll post the link for this clip again in the chat. Take a look at this situation, everyone. And I'll also play it on my screen.
Zambonis just could not catch the pass. Takes it down the middle, another floater off the backboard, doesn't get it. Koprivska not called for the over the back. But there's a foul on the ground and an altercation. They got to calm things down. A double technical foul is called. Ilanu not happy with something. I think it's between Ilanu and Velikovic. Ilanu just puts a block up. It's nothing to do with Velikovic. Looks like it's between Andrich and Ilanu. Couldn't really see from that angle, but you know, it's two big players just battling for rebounds. So probably what we're going to have now is there's a foul called, I believe, Velikovic, against Velikovic. So if I'm correct, Partizan have got 2 free throws. And the technical foul means that Ike can go down the other end, have a free throw, and get possession back. And Williams is going to check into the game. Both teams battling it out. They've got to calm things down. You don't want to get into any trouble right now. So Velikovic is going to shoot the free throws.
Okay, so I'll just say something very quickly about that situation. Now, I know a lot of people are probably going to ask, was that an over-the-back foul before the foul and the technical fouls? Yes, it was, but that's not the purpose of this clip. This clip, we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on the situation where the two players came head-to-head. And notice it was not the two players involved in the in the rebounding foul. This was two completely different players. But in any event, you have two players come head to head, even though there was no quote unquote pushing, there was no punching, there was no shoving. They are taunting one another. They're taunting one another to react, to respond, to do something that could lead to a melee or a fight situation in the game. This must never be permitted. I preached it. You cannot permit players, two players, to come head to head and have exchange of words in such an obvious way and not penalize the action, because what you have done when you do that is you have let everyone involved with the game know this is permitted. And so now anytime you have a situation where two players are going at it, you have given them license to come head to head and taunt one another. That is not permitted. This is basketball. This is not UFC. This is not MMA. This is none of the contact sports in that form of a manner. This is basketball. That is not basketball. Those situations must be penalized immediately and consistently. It sends a message to everyone in the game that is not permitted. The foul was called, whether you like it or not. You can have a discussion with the referee. Your coach can have a discussion with the referee, but we will not permit you to come head to head and taunt one another, because if you don't stop it there, what is the follow-up? A punch, a shove, a fight. Now you have unsportsmanlike fouls, disqualification fouls. You have to get in there. You have to break this fight up. You create a much bigger problem. It's much easier to call the technical foul and send the message, this is not permitted. I'll say one more thing. You would have seen the referee who called the double technical foul. In the midst of this very intense situation, he comes between the two players and very dramatically signals 1, 2. I do not advise under any circumstance that you do such a thing. Your goal is to restore peace. If you come into an intense, heated situation and you match their heated energy, their intensity, you are not bringing calm to the situation. Your first goal in this situation should be get the players separated, get the situation under control. Once you have done that, you can very calmly signal, beep, technical foul on black, technical foul on white. The penalty remains the same. There's no need to come in between while the players are heated and ready to go at each other. There's no need to come in between them and so demonstrably signal, beep, beep, and the situation is not even under control. Control the situation, separate the players, bring calm to the game, and then with a level head, you can very calmly signal, beep, technical foul on black, beep, technical foul on white, and carry on with the game. That's the observations that I have about that play. Ms. Martindale, the next slide.
Okay. Make it a little clearer. Okay. I can't see it. It's not clear.
Okay, I'll read it. A technical foul is a non-contact player foul which may be called for hanging on the ring in such a way that the weight of the player is supported by the ring, unless a player grasps the ring momentarily following a dunk shot, or in the judgment of a referee is trying to prevent injury to himself or to another player. And we have a clip for this, which I will once again share with you all. I just put it in the link, and I will share my screen again so that we can watch this one. This one is quick.
First 2 points of the game. It's been heat since then, including a 17-point first-half lead. Dellavedova pokes it away. Here's James. Dang in pursuit. James throws it down, and a technical foul for hanging on the rim. I think because he lifted himself up, and it didn't appear to be anybody underneath him at the time. So Cavs take the lead. Yeah, the fact that he lifted himself up after is the reason for the tee. Wade hits the technical free throw, and we're tied at 78.
Good job by Dellavedova getting back into the picture defensively, created that turnover.
Right, and I think that one goes without saying. We won't spend any additional time on that. We will move to the next slide. Ms. Martindale, can you see now?
Yes. Goaltending during the last free throw by a defensive player. The offensive team shall be awarded 1 point, followed by the technical foul penalty charge on the defensive player. And you can play the clip.
Okay. So I'm putting the clip for this one in the chat right now, and I'll also share it on my screen as well.
In hindsight, that's true, but no coach in the country, would commit a foul.
Yeah, no one's going to pull that trigger. I appreciate Dave's point, but no one's going to pull that trigger. I simply believe that's an old play on the baseline that they attempted. There was clear contact. It could have been called. If it had been called, there would not have been much of an argument from Georgia.
Right here, Georgia trying to get a 3-point lead. They failed to execute twice against Ole Miss in this situation with a 3-point lead. That is a technical.
Yes, it is. Stevenson, that's a team. On Stevenson, absolutely. And now.
Okay, Christian. I think as a referee you can elaborate more on this. But one thing that I have to say, okay, so we talked about when there's free throw shootings, when there's a free throw, the only player that when that free throw is taken, and there's any interference with the ball whatsoever, then like we cannot let this go unnoticed or unpunished. In the video, the referee that was actually the lead referee who was administering the free throw, like he did nothing. His partner went over to him and they had like a brief discussion, and then the technical foul was issued. So this is one situation where you must give a technical foul because this is not accepted in the game.
Okay,
there's no interference with the free throw whatsoever.
Well, I'm just let us be clear. The rule is, if you commit a goaltending violation on the last or only free throw shot, then that is warranted a technical foul. If you goaltend or interfere on the first of two or the second of three, then you will call the goaltending or you will call the interference. One shot will be awarded if it's by the defense. Shot will be canceled if it's by the offense. The only time we call a technical foul is if it's a goaltending violation on the last or only free throw. And I just want to be clear. Goaltending has to do with the flight of the ball. If, for instance, the ball was on the ring and he would have jumped up and hit the backboard, or he would have jumped up and hit the ring, or he would have jumped up and grabbed the net, that is not a goaltending violation. That is an interference violation, and the penalty would just be 1 point awarded to the offensive team. The rule is very clear. It's a technical foul if you goaltend the last free throw or the only free throw. And when we say only free throw, that's like a and one situation. If you act a shooting foul and one and you're only shooting one free throw, that's what they mean when they say only free throw. If you goaltend, meaning you contact that ball on its flight up or down, because it's a free throw, it has nothing to do with downward flight, it would be a goaltending violation. You would call the goaltending, count the 1 point, and assess a technical foul. So the offensive team would get a additional technical foul free throw, and then depending on how the shot went will determine who gets the ball. So this does not happen very often, but you see it does happen because there's a clip of it happening in that game, and the referees correctly called the violation. Even though they were a little bit shocked, it took them a second to realize what happened, and they correctly assessed the technical foul. If we can just keep moving, please. The other issue for a technical foul is a fake being fouled. We have a separate presentation on that, so we won't spend any time on that right now. So, Miss Martindale.
Disregarding warning given by referees, obstructing the vision of an opponent by waving or placing his hands near his eyes. Okay. Okay. So in coaching, the coaches teach their players, okay, they have to be a two-way shooter, basically, right? Okay, part of the fundamentals for shooting is when you say B, balance, elbows, eyes, and follow through. Okay, good. In the act of shooting, if the defensive player is not making an attempt towards the ball and the hand is placed in the player's face, either by waving the hands or placing the palms directly near the player's eyes, that is the violation. And that's not encouraged because that's unfair. Okay, so things to look for. Yes, the defensive player might go up in an attempt to contest the shot, but in the active mindset, you have to look for the placement of the arms. Is this fair or not? Okay, so once the hand is not going towards the ball or making an attempt to actually block the shot and is going directly into the player's place to obstruct the player's vision from actually seeing, then that is the technical foul as well.
And the last bullet point, Ms. Martindale?
Delaying the game by deliberately touching the ball after it passes through the basket. Okay, play clear. It's not clear on the screen.
Okay, it says delaying the game by
Sorry,
deliberately touching the ball after it passes through the basket.
It's not clear on the screen.
Or by preventing a throw-in or a free throw from being taken promptly. So we have a video here that is going to touch on those three points, and you would notice that the slide says please stop at the 6 minute and 12 second mark. The video is much longer than that, but you do not need to watch all of it. So once again, I will share the link with you. I will also play it on my screen, but you're humbly asked to stop at the 6 minute and 12 second mark. Let me get the link. The link has been sent. Please stop at 6 minutes and 12 seconds. And I will once again play it on my screen for those of you who are watching it that way.
After the good feedback received from the new rule changes video, I decided to have the next video look at fake a foul warning and the legal boundary line crossing, which was introduced in the 2017-2018 season. I expanded this topic and have them under the warning umbrella. We will look at all the different official warnings given in a game. The focus will be on the main warnings we will see in games: player-coach behavior, delay of game, shooter disconcertion, and fake a foul. Important to note that every category has their own warning. A delay of game warning is different from a fake a foul warning or a shooter disconcertion. You can be warned for each different category and only receive a technical foul on the same second action committed from one of the categories. All warnings should be communicated to the player and coach of those that committed the infraction. You also let your crew know, so that way they are aware of what the next infraction entails. I will quickly touch over the first warning that comes to mind, and that's the coach, player, bench warning, where there may be inappropriate behavior occurring from one of the teams and you decide to warn them. Behavior continues, then you can move to the technical foul, which is the foul that is associated with most of the warnings that you can give. There is a common misconception that a warning must be given for behavior or conduct before someone gets a technical, but clearly that's false. A warning for irritant behavior is a courtesy and can be seen as game management or under communication. A warning could be for comments being made, action from the bench, or any behavior you would not want to continue to occur in the game. Yes, staring can be penalized if warned.
Timeout LA. Whack! Get out! Get away from me, Steve. Get away from me, Steve. He didn't say a word. Technical foul, Wallace. He's gone. No, not right. I asked him 3 times to stop staring at me to try to intimidate me. I'm done. He's gone. I asked him. I told him. I have already told Mike twice before to have him stop staring to try to intimidate me. He did it again. He's gone.
Delay of game. All delay of game situations are to eliminate an advantage trying to be gained, whether intentional or not. There are a couple of different scenarios that can occur that result in a different consequence. Timeout delays. When a timeout extends beyond the 1 minute given, a coach is gaining an advantage by having more time to instruct their players and thus delays the game. One example shows how to handle the situation. If, after beckoning the team on, the coach ignores and remains in the bench area still instructing the team, the official re-beckons the team. Situation A. If the team enters the court on the second beckon, a warning is given to the coach. If this situation occurs again, the coach is hit with a timeout after the second beckoning. Situation B. The team remains in their bench area. Official hits the team with a timeout with no warning. If they are out of timeouts, then they go straight to A, technical foul. Similar situation. Third quarter is set to begin, but one team is still in their dressing room, delaying the start of the quarter. After the team finally enters the playing court, a timeout is automatically charged to them. Different situation, but similar consequence. A player has received their 5th foul and has fouled out of the game. The coach has a max of 30 seconds to have a substitute come into the game. Any longer results in a timeout being charged, and if they have none, is a technical foul charged to the head coach. Illegal boundary line crossing. For the first 38 minutes of the game, this signal is not to be used, but still enforced through a warning. Anytime someone moves any part of their body over the boundary line and interferes with an inbound, will be given a warning. The next time this is done, they are given a technical foul. In the last 2 minutes of the game, the illegal boundary line crossing signal is used to serve as the warning, meaning anytime you move any part of the body over the boundary line and interferes with an inbound, it is a technical foul. Even if you have not received a verbal warning earlier in the game, your warning is the signal. This was to prevent committing violations on purpose, to see what the offense is running, to inbound and potentially counter it. These last 2 situations you tend to see often. One is deliberately touching the ball after it passes through the basket. This gives an advantage by allowing the new defensive team to get back after a score by delaying the inbound of the offensive team, effectively allowing the defense to set up. The other delay is shooting the ball after the whistle. A call is made by the official and the player decides to shoot the ball after. This allows the shooter to get a practice shot and delays the setup of the next procedure. Similar scenario is after a whistle. The player holds the ball or rolls the ball away, effectively stopping the setup of the next procedure. Tapping the ball away or holding the ball after a basket or a whistle or shooting after the whistle results in a delay of game warning, which is verbalized to the team who committed the action. Next infraction is a technical foul. The next category is shooter disconcertion, when an opponent places their hands near the shooter's eyes, shouts loudly, stomps their feet, and/or claps their hands near the shooter. It may disconcert the shooter. If these actions result in the offensive player missing their shot, then a technical foul is called. If the shooter makes the shot, then the goal counts and a warning is given to the player and the coach. Last category, fake a foul warning.
Okay, so most people should be wrapping up with that. Remember, we're only going as far as the 6 minute and 12-second mark, and I'm sure that would have brought home a lot of the points that was mentioned. If there are any questions, like I said, we'll take them at the end of the presentation. Ms. Martindale, I want to continue if we can. Let me know if you can see the slide. Go ahead.
Hold on a minute. No, I can't see it.
Okay. So it says a player shall be disqualified for the remainder of the game when he or she is charged with 2 technical fouls or 2 unsportsmanlike fouls, or with 1 unsportsmanlike foul and 1 technical foul. A head coach shall be disqualified for the remainder of the game when he or she is charged with 2 technical fouls registered in the scorebook as C as a result of his or her personal behavior, unsportsmanlike behavior. A head coach shall be disqualified for the remainder of the game when he or she is charged with 3 technical fouls. All of them may be B as in boy technical fouls, which means they were given because of the behavior of his bench, or one of them as a C technical foul as a result of the unsportsmanlike behavior of other persons permitted to sit on the team bench. So basically, a player is disqualified from the game if they get 2 technical fouls, 2 unsportsmanlike fouls, or a combination of both. A coach, a head coach, is disqualified if he gets 2 technical fouls for his personal behavior, something that he did, disrespectfully communicating with the officials, making gestures, touching the official, his own behavior. If he gets 2 technical fouls for his or her own behavior, he's disqualified. If he receives a technical foul for the behavior of someone on his bench, then he is permitted up to 3 technical fouls, and that is FIBA basketball rules. That is not the case in other rule systems. Ms. Martindale, can you see this slide? Your mic?
Like it is blurry.
Okay, I'll just continue. You let me know when you can see. When you can see, just let me know and I will let you in.
Okay.
Statement. When the game clock shows 2 minutes or less in the fourth quarter, and in each overtime, and there is a throw-in to be administered with a player defending the thrower-in, the following procedure shall be applied. The official shall use an illegal boundary line crossing signal as a warning before handing the ball to the thrower-in. If then the defensive player moves any part of his body over the boundary line to interfere with the throw-in, a technical foul shall be called without further warning. The same procedure shall also be applied after a successful field goal and last successful free throw when the ball is not handed to the thrower-in. So this is basically saying in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter or in the last 2 minutes of the overtime, before any throw-in, whether you are giving the ball to the player or they are throwing in the ball themselves after a shot or after a field goal, the referee who is on that line, baseline or sideline, and is administering the throw-in must give this signal, which is to the right of this slide. So you swing your arms parallel to the line, whichever line it is, and that serves as the warning to the defensive player not to cross over the line with any part of his body. If the defensive player moves over the line and interferes with the throw-in, a technical foul will be called automatically because the signal serves as the warning. So let's take a look at this example here. It says, with 1:08 remaining on the game clock in the fourth quarter and with 11 seconds on the shot clock, A1 has the ball in his hands for a throw-in from its front court. B1 moves his hands over the boundary line to block A1 throw-in. Notice the time of the game, 1:08 in the fourth quarter, so we're under the 2-minute mark. So we are assuming the referee has given the legal boundary signal. So what is the interpretation for the purpose of time? I'm going to speed up. The interpretation is, as the official has given a warning before he has handed the ball to A1, B1 shall be charged with a technical foul for interfering with the throw-in. Any Team A player shall attempt one free throw with no lineup. The game shall be resumed with a Team A throw-in from the place nearest to where the ball was located when the technical foul occurred. Team A shall have 14 seconds on the shot clock. So I'll just take this opportunity just to say really quickly, Ms. Cunningham, DeAndre Cunningham, you asked the question with the play, with the technical foul where the player reached over the line and then the referee called the violation and he refused to give the referee the basketball, and then she called the technical foul for his disrespect. And the question was, what can him just touching the ball be a technical foul? If it was in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter or the last 2 minutes of any overtime, assuming she had given the warning signal, it would have automatically been a technical foul for him reaching over the line. If, however, this situation happens before the 2-minute mark, meaning a defensive player reaches over the line, and it's before the last 2 minutes of the game or overtime. In most cases, when it happens the first time, you will give an official warning. You will blow your whistle. You will tell the player, you cannot reach over the boundary line. That is your warning. That warning will be communicated to the coach. And if any player from the team does it again in the game, whether it's before the 2-minute mark or after the 2-minute mark, it will be a technical foul. So that's why I said to your question, it depends on the time of the game and the situation. I'm assuming in that play, no warning had already been given. So she blew a whistle to warn him, but then he was disrespectful. And so he got a technical foul for his disrespect. If we can move on.
Okay.
Are you ready, Ms. Martindale?
Yeah, go. Okay, so I'm going to read from my screen, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to read from my screen. Okay, statement. When a technical foul is called, the free throw penalty shall be administered.
We're Ms. Martindale, we're on the one with the excessive swinging of elbows now.
That one, I can't see it. Sorry. Excessive swinging of elbows. Okay, so put it up on your screen.
I have it up. Serious injury may occur.
Serious injury may occur by excessive swinging of the elbows, especially in rebounding activities and closely guarded player situations. If such action results in contact, then a personal, unsportsmanlike, or even disqualifying foul may be called. If the action does not result in contact, a technical foul may be called. I think that's pretty clear. If there's no contact, it's a technical foul. If there's contact, depending on the severity of the foul, which part of the body was used to make contact, where on the opponent's body was the contact made, can determine if it is a personal foul or an unsportsmanlike foul or even a disqualifying foul. Okay?
Okay.
So you can play the video.
We have the example first, I think.
Okay. So the example. A1 rebounds the ball and returns to the playing court. A1 is immediately closely guarded by B1. Without contacting B1, A1 excessively swings the elbows to intimidate B1 or to clear enough space to pivot, pass, or dribble. Right? For those of you who were not with us yesterday, we talked about in cylindrical principles when the new teaching now in FIBA is when the offensive player has the ball, now he's allowed to have within his cylinder space to shoot, pass, or dribble. Okay? And in doing that and applying that to this situation, if he's closely guarded, so, and referees, this is something to look out for. If you see the player is closely guarded, then you need to judge the action of the player to see if the swinging of the elbows is being used to create space, right? To give him an advantage to either shoot, pass, or dribble, or to advance, or if it is used to intimidate the player. Hey, get off of me. Okay, and we have to be mindful. We also have to be mindful that in judging, that we judge the action, because most of the times, if the players are being closely guarded and there's any excessive swinging of the elbow, the first contact is the hard elbow to the soft part of the face, and that is where the serious injury can occur. Okay, so especially if there's a swing, if the player has the ball and there's a swing of the arms in pivoting, and there's any contact with the elbow, and in your judgment, it is used to either intimidate or to get extra space to pivot or to pass, then you are within your rights to call a technical foul.
Right. Like Ms. Martindale said yesterday when we talked about the cylinder principle, the offensive player is permitted within his cylinder to pivot, pass, shoot, or dribble. You must give him that space. However, this rule is saying they cannot use the elbow outside of a normal basketball move to create additional space by intimidating the player or clearing enough space. So this is not a normal pivot. This is when they are intentionally using the elbow, swinging it normally to the face of the opponent to get them to move back. This is a separate situation, and the rule says, what is the interpretation? If a player does that, A1 action does not conform to the spirit and intent of the rules, A1 may be charged with a technical foul. And we have a clip of that, and I will share that with you now. We are almost done. Ladies and gentlemen, just hold tight. I'm sure you're enjoying this. So we're going to send you the clip. Okay. Just 1 second. I'm having a little difficulty here. Okay, here we go. So I'll be sharing the clip with you now. Control C. The clip is in the chat, and I will also be sharing it on the screen as we have been doing. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. Okay. Wait, I keep hitting the wrong, what's going on? There we go.
Right. Ryan. The elbow. They're going to call the technical foul on that elbow.
Now you see, you're not going to get it. Watch what happens here, right here. See, he misses him, but the referee, from his angle, probably thought that he hit him. Okay, because you can see Fernandez takes his head back, but he's going to get him. He's going to get him for swinging his elbows deliberately.
Okay, so we can debate about the faking or not, the exaggeration, and if you want to discuss that, you will have to come tomorrow night, and we will talk about the faking or the flopping. But what we are focusing on in this clip is not the exaggeration by the defensive player, but we're focusing on the excessive swinging of the elbows by the offensive player to create space for him to pass the ball. And FIBA rule says if you excessively swing your elbows without contact, it is a technical foul. FIBA rules, you cannot call a technical foul for contact. Ms. Martindale has said that very explicitly. A technical foul is a non-contact foul. If he had hit him, the call is either an offensive foul, an unsportsmanlike foul, or a disqualifying foul. But if he contacted him, if he had actually hit the player, you cannot call a technical foul under FIBA rules, because a technical foul is a non-contact foul. And that's the take-home message here. Technical foul for elbows means that there was no contact. Okay? And we will continue. Ms. Martindale?
Where we at right now?
We are on a player shall be disqualified when he is charged with 2 technical fouls.
Okay, good. So this is more of a, okay, so as a referee, I think understanding the penalties for technical fouls are very important, because sometimes during the game, with the heat of the game, with the amount of activities going on in the game, it's easy sometimes to lose concentration. And that's when the table officials play a very important role in assisting us in managing the game. Okay, and the rule clearly states a player shall be disqualified when he is charged with 2 technical fouls. Whether there's 1 technical foul in the first 2 minutes of the game and another technical foul in the last 1 minute and 8 seconds in the game, as long as there's an infraction in the rules that merits a technical foul, and you award a technical foul, then that player must be disqualified. And we have an example. A1 is charged with his first technical foul during the first half for hanging on the rim. Something basic that we discussed. Hanging on the rim is one of the categories where we may give a technical foul. A1 is charged with a second technical foul during the second half for unsportsmanlike behavior, whether that is aggressively approaching the referee, taunting, anything of that nature. So once you've given the player 2 technical fouls, then he must be automatically disqualified from the game. Right? And here's the interpretation. A1 shall be automatically disqualified. The second technical foul is only to be penalized, and no additional penalties for the disqualifying foul shall be administered. Good. So two technical fouls is an automatic disqualification. Do we shoot for a disqualifying foul in this situation? No. We shoot 1 shot for the second penalty, and that's it. Okay, the score, it is very important too, as I said, the scorer must notify an official immediately when the player has been charged with 2 technical fouls and that he should be disqualified. So as I said, sometimes in the heat of the game, like, we lose concentration. Okay, and this is the time where the teamwork aspect of the game comes in. when we and the table officials are communicating. We have to get it right.
Mr. Francis, we're taking questions at the end because we're trying to conclude the presentation. So if you can just make a note of your question, we'll be sure to get to you at the end. Okay. Ms. Martindale, we are on after having been charged with his 5th foul, a player. Sorry.
Okay, so I have to go to my presentation because there's the screen is gray.
I'm going to read because we're a little late. So it says, after having been charged with his 5th foul, a player becomes an excluded player. After his 5th foul, any further technical fouls on him shall be charged on his head coach entered as B1. The B means to the bench. This is also valid if one of his 5 fouls were a technical foul or unsportsmanlike foul. The excluded player is not a disqualified player and may stay in his team bench area. What does this mean? Let's say a player has 4 fouls in the game, and his 5th foul is a technical foul, which is his first technical foul or unsportsmanlike foul in the game. So he had 4 personal fouls, 4 normal personal fouls, and his 5th foul is a technical foul. So now he's fouled out. And let's say on his way to the bench, he says something additionally or does something additionally to the referee, and another technical foul is issued. This is saying that at the moment he received his 5th foul, he is no longer considered a player. He is an excluded player, which means he is a part of the bench. So even if the referee has called a second technical foul on him on his way to the bench, that technical foul is not charged to him because he's not a player. That second technical foul will go towards the coach and count as one of his technical fouls. So even though technically you might have called 2 technical fouls for his behavior, in this situation, this player is not disqualified from the game. He is fouled out, but he is not disqualified from the game because he has 1 technical foul on him, and the second technical foul went to the coach. So let's take a look at the example. It says, example, B1 is charged with an unsportsmanlike foul during the 3rd quarter. In the 4th quarter, B1 is charged with his 5th foul, a normal foul, 5th foul. This is Team B's 3rd foul in the quarter. While going to his team bench, B1 is charged with a technical foul. Can B1 sit on the team bench? I'll read it again. B1 gets an unsportsmanlike foul in the 3rd quarter. Finally, in the 4th quarter, he commits his 5th foul, a normal foul, and he's fouled out. On his way to the bench, he says something to the referee, or he does something or says something to another player, whatever. He is charged with a technical foul. Can B1 sit on the team bench? This is the question.
Yes.
Why?
Because it wasn't a unsportsmanlike. If he got 2 unsportsmanlike fouls, then he had to leave the gym, right? Or leave the bench or something like that.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. But it's just a regular foul, so that'd be his 5th foul. So he would have to just sit on the bench, eh?
Yeah, so he had his 5th foul, but then he got another technical foul. So what does that mean? On his way to the bench, he got a technical foul. What do we do with that technical foul?
You give it to the bench?
Yes, the technical foul is charged to the bench. When B1 got his 5th foul, he now became an excluded player. So the interpretation is, with his 5th foul, B1 has become an excluded player. Any further technical fouls on him shall be charged on his head coach entered as B1. B1 is not disqualified. He is fouled out, which means he can sit on the bench, but he is not disqualified. Any Team A player shall attempt 1 free throw with no lineup. The game shall be resumed with a Team A throw-in from the place nearest to where the ball was located when the technical foul was called. So that's the technical foul that B1 got on his way to the bench. Because he had already committed his 5th foul, that technical foul was not charged to him. It was charged to his coach as a bench technical foul. So he is just fouled out of the game, but he is not disqualified. So he can sit on the bench. And this can happen in games. So please be mindful of this rule. Moving right along. Okay, this is mine. Okay, a player coach shall be disqualified. I'll summarize this very long slide very quickly. In the Caribbean, you know, we have games from time to time where we have a player who is also acting as coach. And so the question here is, how do we balance the technical fouls and unsportsmanlike fouls? Can a player who is also coach, can he get 2 technical fouls as a player and still go on the bench and have his full allotment of technical fouls as a coach? Can he foul out as a player and continue as a coach? Can he foul out as a coach and continue as a player? That is what this rule is referring to. And the answer is no. If a person who is acting as both player and coach is disqualified in either one of those positions, he is disqualified from the game. So if I am number 8 and I am also acting as coach, if I get 2 technical fouls as a player, I am disqualified from the game as both player and coach. If I get 2 unsportsmanlike fouls as a player, I am disqualified from the game as both player and coach. If I get 1 unsportsmanlike foul and 1 technical foul as a player, I am disqualified as player and coach. Same thing. If I get disqualified as a coach because I got 2 technical fouls directly on me, C fouls we call them for coach, I am out as player and coach. If I get any other disqualification as player and as coach, then I'm disqualified. So the question then becomes, what if, and the one I have highlighted in green is the only one that's interesting, a player who gets a technical foul or unsportsmanlike foul as a player, but then also gets a technical foul as a head coach, a C technical foul. So he gets 1 technical foul on sportsmanlike foul as a player on the court, and then when he's on the bench, he gets another technical foul to him, not a bench technical foul, a technical foul directly to him. In that situation, that player coach shall be disqualified. And by disqualified, he cannot sit on the bench. He must go to the locker room, or he must leave the gym. So here is the example. In the first quarter, player head coach, so this is a player who's also acting as a coach, A1 is charged with a technical foul for faking a foul as a player. So he has a technical foul as a player. In the 4th quarter, A2, so not the same person, another teammate is dribbling when this player head coach A1 is charged with a technical foul for his personal unsportsmanlike behavior as a head coach. Entered as C1. Shall player head coach be disqualified? So he got a technical foul on the court as a player, and now he's gotten a technical foul as a head coach for his personal conduct. Shall he be disqualified? And the rule is player coach A1 shall be automatically disqualified. The second technical foul is only to be penalized, and no additional penalty for this disqualification shall be administered, blah, 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 blah. That goes to what Ms. Martindale said. If he'll only be penalized for the 1 technical foul, which means 1 shot, not for a disqualifying foul, which would be 2 shots and the ball. Okay. All right, this is the last one. Ms. Martindale, you want to take this? When a technical foul is called the free throw penalty? Ms. Martindale, are you with us? Ms. Martindale, you want to take the last one? Okay, we're having some difficulties. So the statement, when a technical foul is called, the free throw penalty shall be administered immediately with no lineup. After the free throw has been administered, the game shall be resumed from the place nearest to where the ball was located when the technical foul occurred. So what this is saying, no matter what happened, and Ms. Martindale hinted at this earlier, the technical foul penalty will always be administered first. This is kind of how they do it in the NBA, right? FIBA wasn't always this way, but now they're saying no matter what other fouls you have, you administer the technical foul penalties first. So what is the example? B1 fouls A1 on his attempt for a 2-point field goal. So this is a foul in the act of shooting. Before the administration of the first free throw, A2 is charged with a technical foul. So here we have it. B1 fouls A1 on his shot for 2 points. So A1 is supposed to get 2 free throws. Before they can shoot those free throws, a team A player gets a technical foul. What is the interpretation? The interpretation, any team B player shall attempt 1 free throw with no lineup. So we attempt the free throw for the technical foul first. After we have shot the free throw for the technical foul, then we go back to the other penalty, which is the 2 free throws for A1 who is fouled in the act of shooting. So it says any team B player shall attempt 1 free throw with no lineup. After that, A1 shall attempt his second free throw. The game shall be resumed as after any last free throw. So the team B player will shoot his free throw, no lineup. Then the referee will invite all the players to come on the line. A1 will shoot his 2 free throws for being fouled as if any normal free throw. And if it goes in, B1 will inbound the ball and the game will continue. If it misses, they will fight for the rebound and the ball and the game will continue. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. Any questions here? Thank you very much for those of you who waited a little bit later. Thank you. We really appreciate it. I'll now hang around with Ms. Martindale to take any questions. Mr. Francis, first of all.
Good night.
Good night.
Right. My question was to do with the officials notifying that a player has 2 technical fouls and they should be ejected from the game.
Okay.
Now, you said that the officials should immediately notify once that person gets that second foul, that technical or unsportsmanlike foul, which brings them into that situation. Now, however, if the table official did not notify, the game continues, and that same player that's supposed to be out of the game scores the basket, and then the officials realize and stop the game. Does that basket still count, or are it just considered a fault of the officials and it stays as is?
Very, very good question. We have a lot of people who are unmuting their mics and
Very
it's
good
causing
question.
a lot of feedback. That's a very good question, Mr. Francis. FIBA has a rule. There's almost no situation really when you will come back and replay the game. If the officials fail to do what they are supposed to do, any points scored, time elapsed, fouls committed will be valid.
Even if that decides the game itself?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. So the pressures on the officials, you have a full table accompaniment, you have a scorer, an assistant scorer. In the top leagues, you have a statistician, you have you have a commissioner, you have the scoreboard sometimes that shows the foul. Somebody needs to know that that is the 5th foul.
I have 3 officials on the court. You have 3 referees on the court. Right? Okay, so just let me add a little bit to your question.
Hold on one second, Jillian. Can these people, can you mute your mics because, okay, go ahead, Jillian, it's better now. Go ahead, Ms. Martindale. Jillian, go ahead.
Good. So you to the participant that asked the question, right? You asked if he continues to play and his points scored, if he commits another foul. That is not his fault. And that's what, and in the IoTs, especially, we talked about having an active mindset and staying with the game. We have 3 officials on the court. We have a commissioner. We have a very, well, we should have a desk, right? We have a scorer. We have a scorer who's recording information. So someone should pick it up. And it would be better that it is recognized before the game is restarted. Okay, because as simple as it looks, and you mentioned, okay, suppose the team had won the game, okay, unfairly in a sense, so I'm going to use unfairly, that is breathing ground for the other team to right to protest. And then when they do protest, then it is the fault of the officials in the match.
Okay. Do we have any more questions, Mr.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr.
Yes,
O'Gara, go ahead.
Yes. I'd like to ask a question. My question is simply this. What happens if the technical foul occurs after the first free throw is taken?
Very good question, Mr. O'Gara. So let's say a player, let's go with the situation we just had then. So you have a player who was fouled in the act of shooting. So they are awarded 2 free throws. They shoot the first one, and then you have, they're supposed to shoot the second one, but then you have a technical foul. That's your question. What do we do?
Yes, sir.
So in that situation, you will actually pause the continuation of the second free throw shot for that shooter, and you will go and shoot the technical foul free throw and then come back and shoot the final shot for the player in the active shooting.
Thank you for that explanation. Thank you.
Hey, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, the technical foul must be shot immediately. There's no delay. There's no delay in shooting the technical shot. It must be shot immediately.
I see some questions in the chat I want to get to. Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling, let me just see, has a few questions he's put into the chat. One of them is, I'll do the questions first and we'll come to the comments live. It says, is this elbow rule applicable to the post? Because when we teach the center, when he gathers the ball, he holds both elbows up and pivots with both elbows extended. Is this a technical foul or is this in the judgment of the officials? If you don't mind, I'd like to take this one. So I know, Mr. Sterling, that you came to the
Just let me say something first, Kristen.
Go ahead.
Yes. Just let me say something. Okay, for those of you who weren't with us last night, so you didn't really have the opportunity to hear the presentation, and hopefully you can go on the site and you can listen to the presentation. Okay, because this question is part of what was discussed in the presentation last night. So the best person to give you all the answers is the presenter himself.
Thank you very much. So I'll just summarize it quickly. We talked about the cylinder principle and the rule, and Ms. Martindale hinted at it a little earlier on. The offensive player must be permitted within his cylinder to pivot, to pass, to shoot, or to dribble. If there's any illegal contact by the defensive player while he is doing this, the defensive player is responsible for the foul. However, the elbow rule has to do with a quote-unquote intentional act of swinging the elbow to create space. That's why I played that clip where you can see that the player he didn't swing his elbows with the intention of passing the ball. He swung his elbows with the intention of backing the defender off of him so he can swing, so he can pass the ball. So this is in a way in the judgment of the officials. You have to see the action and you have to decide, is this a normal basketball pivot or is this an excessive swinging of the elbows to create space, and you have to be the judge, jury, and executioner on that play. But make no mistake about it, you are right. The offensive player is entitled to be able to pivot within his cylinder. The rule allows for that. Let me go to your second question. Is the illegal boundary signal a correctable error? Meaning, I observed my partner forget to give the signal. Can I stop the game and give the signal? Or what's the interpretation? Well, this is a question for the ages. Interesting. So I'm actually glad that you asked this question. So remember the rule. If I was to go back a few slides to the unsportsmanlike foul that dealt with that, the interpretation said very clearly, and if I can find it quickly, the interpretation said very clearly, the assumption is, and this is it here, the assumption is that the referee has given a warning. So in the first place, if you did not give the warning, the illegal boundary signal, you have made the game very difficult for yourself, because now you really shouldn't call a technical foul directly because the team did not receive the warning. That's why, as a referee, you have to put this into your game. In the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter and the last 2 minutes of the overtime, before any throw in, which you are responsible for administering, the official who is on that boundary line, you must make the signal. If you don't make the signal, now you make it difficult to call a technical foul because really you did not give the team a warning. Now, to your question, can you stop the game and give the warning? Mr. Sterling, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to this situation. I am only going to give you Christian Wilmore's answer to this situation. I would not advise that you do so. I would just hold my breath and hope that nothing goes wrong. This is one of those situations where you just hope that the player doesn't reach over the line, and now you don't have to decide whether to call a technical foul or not. But I will say, though, in the high level,
be proactive.
There's always something you can do. You can use your voice. If you are on the line, you can say, hey, don't reach over the line. Don't come over the line. Even though you've forgotten to give the signal, you can do other things to help to prevent the player from reaching over the line, which might put you in a difficult situation to have to now decide, do I call the technical foul even though I didn't give the warning? So there are other things that you can do. And even as a partner, you can use your voice. Hey, make sure he doesn't reach over the line. Don't come over the line. And there are other things that you can do, or give your partner the signal from if he's looking at you. And then even if he gives the signal late, he might still, while he's standing there, make the signal to remind the player that, hey, you cannot come over the line or it's going to be a technical foul. So there are tools, like we said, going back to the psychology of officiating. Do not let them put you in a box where you forget the signal and now you don't know what to do. You have to now become proactive. What can I do? Use the voice. Tell the defensive player, hey, watch the line. Hey, don't come over the line. Hey, back up. You're over the line. There are things that you can do to be proactive and prevent this situation. Very good question. Thank you. Okay, we'll take one more question if anyone has one before we end officially. I'm so happy that all of you decided to stay. Is there one more question that anyone wants to ask? If not, I'll read some comments that are in the chat. Mr. Sterling was typing away. He says,
I had one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I typed this one in the chat, but I just wanted to find out when you award the timeout, and this going back to the video that we stopped at 6 minutes and 12 seconds. When you award a timeout to the team, if they are in delay of the game, does this timeout, is a timeout charged to the team and they enter the court immediately, or do they remain to finish the remainder of the timeout they are awarding to them?
Ms. Martindale, you want to take this one?
Good. So let me understand you. Okay, so you say, okay, so there's a timeout, the referee beckons the team onto the court, and a team decides for tactical reasons that they want to spend extra time in their timeout.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Good. So in
Yes,
this situation, good. In this situation, like this whole situation is going towards a delay of the game. Okay, so if that team has another timeout, okay, if that team has another timeout, it's recommended that you give them the timeout. If they don't have a timeout, then they're awarded with a technical foul for delaying the game, right? Because it could be tactical for them returning to the court late and still strategizing and planning. The other team has re-entered the court and they're still in the huddle. So they're creating an advantage for themselves. So what you want to do, okay, PB, so, and that's why it is very important that the two officials go towards the team bench area and beckon them onto the court. Okay, once you give them that official warning and the other team has re-entered the court and you're ready to start, because you are ready to start when you are ready to start. You're not waiting on the teams. If they're still in the huddle, okay, they still want to talk, no problem. If they have a timeout, good. So you award them the timeout. If they don't have a timeout, then it's a technical foul for delaying the game.
And Mr. Sterling, to answer your question more directly, you're talking about, so if we award them this additional timeout, yes, the answer to your question is yes, that timeout will be charged to that team. And yes, they are permitted to utilize the full 1 minute of that additional timeout. So if the first timeout comes to an end, they delay coming onto the court and you charge them with another timeout. If they have one, yes, they will get the full 1 minute of that additional timeout to use. So that's the answer to your question.
Hold on, question.
Yes.
In giving that team the timeout, is it that the referee just give the team the timeout on their own, or do they have to agree to take that timeout? Or
agree? No, there's no agreement. You have delayed. You have delayed the game. There's no agreement. I have beckoned you onto the court. You have not come. I have beckoned you again at the end of the timeout. You have not come. I'm going to ask the table official, does Mr. Tehran's team have any more timeouts? If the table official says yes, I am going to blow my whistle and call a timeout for you. That timeout will be charged against you, and the 1 minute for that timeout will start forthwith. There's no discussion, there's no agreement. If you don't come when we ask you to come, we will call the timeout for you if you have one, and if you don't have one, we will call the technical foul. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Before you go on,
yes.
Can I just weigh in here with respect to table officiating? We may have some table officials out there, and you would have give some teaching on the 5 technical fouls, the 5 personal fouls followed by a technical foul on a particular player.
Right.
Table officials, they know that yes, you get a 5th foul on a player, but if that player picks up a technical foul, that technical foul, yes, it goes towards the coach as a bench technical, but it also is listed as an extra box on that player. Because if that player who's now sitting on the bench as what player now?
Excluded player.
Excluded player then picks up a next technical, which will becomes a bench technical on the coach. Then he has 2. And so he then has to leave the game. So that's just some stuff for the table officials.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're much past our time. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, we hope to come and conclude our session because we're going to have a very interesting session on flopping and faking. We didn't get to it tonight, but we really thought that this was informational and that we needed to take our time with this. So thank you all very much and have a blessed night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you.